The moment you stop reacting, stop explaining, stop chasing closure, not because they miss you, but because they can no longer control you, everything shifts. And what comes next moves through a series of very clear stages. If this lines up with your experience, pause, feel your feet on the ground, and remind yourself clarity is not cruelty. You are not in charge of managing someone else's ego. In the first stage, disbelief shows up because a narcissist's inner world is built on predictability and control. They are used to you responding the same way every time, doubting yourself, trying to fix things, getting emotional, or seeking reassurance. When that familiar reaction is suddenly gone, it creates a shock to their system. Your calm, your distance, or your silence does not feel final to them at the start. They frame it as a mood, a phase, or a little tactic you'll drop soon. That story helps protect their shaky sense of superiority and keeps them from facing the idea that they might actually be losing control. In this part, they often act as if nothing has really changed. They might send neutral messages, mention your usual routines, or interact with you in a casual, almost dismissive way. That is not true confidence. It is denial. Admitting your emotional pullback would mean admitting their hold on you is weaker. That is terrifying for them because their self-worth is tied to getting reactions from other people. Your lack of response breaks the feedback loop they use to feel important. Disbelief also acts like a cushion. If they accept too quickly that you are really done, they would have to face feelings they don't know how to handle: shame, inadequacy, and loss of control. So they downplay it. They tell themselves you'll be back, you're being dramatic, or this is just another round in a cycle you've always repeated. This lets them hold on to the illusion of dominance while they quietly test whether their usual tricks still work. At the same time, they are watching you. They track your tone, your response time, your energy. They may poke you with small comments or light contact, fully expecting the old emotional reaction to return. When it doesn't, confusion starts to grow under the surface. This disbelief stage is full of tension. On the outside, everything looks normal, but inside they are destabilized because your disengagement has brought in the thing they fear most: unpredictability. In the second stage, the narcissist shifts from denial into urgency. Once it's clear your emotional distance isn't a quick phase, their anxiety starts to show. They sense, even if only deep down, that their normal access to your attention, reassurance, and emotional energy is slipping away. This triggers a stronger push to pull you back in, not from honest self-reflection or real accountability, but from a desperate need to get their sense of control and validation back. Their behavior can suddenly look very attentive and focused. You might see more messages, unexpected kindness, or affection that feels out of place given the past. They may bring up sweet memories, point to the good times, or talk like your connection is rare and one of a kind. This burst of warmth can feel very confusing, especially if it shows up after a lot of neglect, disrespect, or emotional harm. The important thing to see is this: their behavior is reactive, not relational. It's driven by fear of losing their supply, not a real desire to repair the relationship. Promises often start appearing here. They might claim they've changed, learned, or finally see everything clearly and sell themselves as newly self-aware. If they apologize, it tends to be vague, half-owned, or wrapped in language that sounds deep but dodges direct responsibility. The goal isn't resolution. The goal is to get you re-engaged so things can slide back into the old dynamic where they feel safe and in charge. When warmth and charm aren't enough, the energy ramps up. Their messages may get more frequent, more emotional, more dramatic. They tell you how much they need you, how lost they are without you, how nobody understands them like you do. All of this is designed to trigger your empathy and sense of duty. Your boundaries are not seen as something to respect. They are seen as an obstacle to work around. During this time, they are studying your every reaction for any sign you might be softening. Any response at all even anger, even leave me alone, can be read as a hopeful sign. The urgency keeps climbing until they either regain emotional access or are forced to admit that their old moves don't hit like they used to. In the third stage, when those intensified attempts to reel you back fail, frustration turns into anger. The narcissist experiences your continued distance as a threat, not as a healthy boundary. Your refusal to react challenges their belief that they are entitled to your time, energy, and attention. That clash often triggers rage. The switch can feel abrupt. One moment you're seeing warmth and pleading, the next you're hit with hostility, criticism, and blame. It's emotional whiplash. The anger has a job. By attacking your character, doubting your motives, or calling you cold, ungrateful, or manipulative, they're trying to get back a sense of power. Devaluing you becomes a shield for their fragile self-image. If they can convince themselves you're the problem, they don't have to look at the truth that you are choosing distance because the relationship was unhealthy. In this stage, they may rewrite the whole story of what happened. Past events get twisted so they become the victim, and you become the attacker. Your boundaries are painted as cruel punishment, abandonment, or betrayal. This story twisting helps them push responsibility away and avoid looking at their own behavior. The real aim is to provoke you. They want an emotional reaction because even negative attention feels better to them than being ignored. Communication can get sharp and cutting. Sarcasm, guilt trips, and subtle or not so subtle threats might show up, along with attempts to undercut your confidence. They might question your memory, your sanity, or your intentions, hoping to throw you off balance so they can grab the upper hand again. This is often the most emotionally intense stage because their internal panic is now spilling out as open hostility. At the core, they simply cannot handle losing control without going after the person they think caused that loss. Your calm, your silence, or your refusal to argue is felt as direct rejection, and rejection is something they are not emotionally equipped to handle. The rage and devaluation are defense moves aimed at forcing interaction and reasserting power, not honest expressions of hurt. In the fourth stage, the outward aggression softens and folds into what looks like vulnerability. When anger and put-downs don't get the reaction they want, they shift into a victim role. This change is strategic, even if they're not fully aware of it. By presenting themselves as wounded, misunderstood, or abandoned, they try to tap into your empathy and your sense of guilt. Where rage tried to scare you, sadness tries to pull you back in. They may start talking about how deeply they're hurting, stressing their loneliness, their depression, or feeling broken. The way they frame it suggests you're a modio. Now distance is the main reason for their pain. Instead of acknowledging what they did, they cast themselves as the one who's been unfairly left. This helps them dodge responsibility while still making everything revolve around their emotions. Guilt is the main tool here. They might remind you of what they did for you, sacrifices they made, or hard times they went through, and then hint that you owe them care, attention, or loyalty now. The hidden message is, if you were truly kind or compassionate, you wouldn't keep this distance. This is especially powerful if you are naturally empathetic or used to putting other people's needs before your own. This stage can be very confusing because it can look like real vulnerability. You may see tears, hear regretful words, or listen to them say harsh things about themselves. But even here, real accountability is usually missing. Apologies, if they show up, are often drenched in self-pity or quickly followed by explanations that shift the focus away from their choices and onto circumstances or other people. The spotlight stays on how they feel, not on the actual harm or your clearly stated boundaries. Playing the victim also helps them repair their inner image. By seeing themselves as the injured one, they regain moral high ground in their own mind. If you respond by comforting them, explaining yourself again, or letting them back in emotionally, the old pattern snaps back into place and your needs slide to the background. This stage lasts as long as there's a chance guilt and empathy will work where anger and charm failed. In the fifth stage, when all of those earlier efforts still don't bring back control, the narcissist turns outward to patch up their self-image. Your decision to disengage has created a crack in how they see themselves, and now they look outside for validation to cover it. This often shows up as a sudden new relationship, loud displays of happiness, or carefully staged signs that they are thriving without you. The point isn't true healing or real intimacy. The point is proving to themselves and others that they are still desirable, powerful, and admired. A new person is often used like a prop by quickly attaching to someone else. They try to wipe away the sting of rejection and prove they are above you. The speed and intensity of this new connection can feel jarring, especially if it looks theatrical. Big public posts, over-the-top declarations, obvious public affection. These are often meant to be seen by you or by anyone who will give them approval. The visibility matters because it helps them push down the shame stirred up by your withdrawal. At the same time, a smear campaign may start either quietly or in the open. They might share twisted versions of the relationship, painting you as unstable, cruel, or ungrateful. This does two things. It protects how they look to others, and it supports their internal story that they were the one who was wronged. Controlling the story means they don't have to face accountability or risk others looking too closely at their behavior. Sympathy from others is just another kind of supply. This stage isn't about closure, it's about damage control. They're trying to seal the emotional wound by pulling validation from outside, even if it's shallow and temporary. If the new source gives them enough admiration, their visible urgency around you tends to ease. If it doesn't, they may loop back to earlier tactics, testing again to see if you're still reachable. For you, watching this can be deeply unsettling. You might feel replaced, erased, or start questioning your own reality, remembering that this is fueled by insecurity, not genuine joy or growth, can help loosen its grip on you. The bold, outward confidence usually hides unresolved panic, and the intense need to look like they're winning shows just how much your decision to step back shook the dynamic. In the sixth stage, things often go quieter. It can look like maturity or resolution from the outside, but inside, that's not what's happening. On the surface, the narcissist may seem to pull away, detach, or suddenly move on. Internally, the process is still very active. This stage is defined by emotional shutdown mixed with ongoing monitoring. After wearing out the obvious tactics, they pull back what you can see to protect their ego from further blows, but they stay mentally invested. During this time, they might stop contacting you or keep it very minimal and controlled. This is less about acceptance and more about self-protection. Continued rejection would deepen their sense of not being enough, so putting distance in place helps them feel more stable. Still, many will keep an eye on you from far away, checking your social media, asking mutual people about you, or quietly tracking changes in your life. Information becomes their new form of control. It lets them feel connected without having to risk direct rejection. This phase can feel strange for you because the lack of drama can make you question everything. You might wonder if things were as bad as you thought or if they've truly changed. That doubt is part of the lingering impact of the whole dynamic. The narcissist benefits from this gray zone because it keeps the door in your mind cracked open without them needing to take real responsibility. Inside, they are recalibrating. They're asking themselves whether they might have another opening later, whether enough time will pass for you to soften, or whether certain life changes might make you more vulnerable to contact again. If they sense an opening, stress, loneliness, a big life event, they may pop back up like nothing ever happened, talking to you as if there was no break. If they don't see an opportunity, they keep investing their energy elsewhere. While deeding you in the background as a possible option. This stage highlights their struggle with final endings. Letting go for real would mean facing loss, limits, and the impact of their behavior, which threatens how they see themselves. By staying mentally close but emotionally distant, they avoid real closure. For you, seeing this pattern clearly helps you avoid mistaking silence for healing or change, and reminds you why your boundaries still matter, even when the noise has died down. In the seventh stage, what settles in is not big action, but a long-term mental stance. This is where the narcissist has finally taken in that they can't fully count on control anymore, but they still won't fully let go. They hold on to you in their mind, not as a full human being, but as a symbol. You may rarely hear from them or only get random, occasional contact, but inside their head, they replay the dynamic over and over, reshaping it to protect their ego. They often rewrite the ending so it looks like they were the one who chose to leave. In their version, they outgrew you, you were never that important, or they did you a favor by stepping away. This isn't about truth, it's about survival. Accepting that you chose to disengage, stayed away, and built a life without them is too destabilizing. So they change the storyline to feel like they're still in control of the ending. During this stage, Hoover attempts can still show up, but they are less frantic and more casual. A holiday text, a random message when you're going through something hard, or a light reference to old times might pop up months or years later. The goal is to see if they still have a way in. If you respond, even lightly, it can open the door to restarting the old pattern. If you don't, they pull back again and double down on the story that you were difficult, ungrateful, or irrelevant. Emotionally, this stage carries lie, nurturing resentment mixed with avoidance. They may feel a low-grade anger that you did not break, did not chase, and did not need them to heal. That unprocessed injury can bleed into how they act in future relationships, often making them even more controlling, guarded, or reactive. Your absence becomes a quiet reference point they measure themselves and others against, even if they never say it out loud. What makes this stage tricky is its silence. There may be no big fights, no obvious manipulation, and still no true closure. The pattern continues in their inner world, stuck in place because real closure would require real self-reflection, responsibility, and acceptance of limitations, skills they keep resisting. In the eighth stage, the focus finally shifts from them to you. This is where your consistent disengagement starts to change your inner world. Their influence over your thoughts, feelings, and body begins to break apart. Even if they are still running the same patterns elsewhere, the important thing now is what doesn't work on you anymore. Your emotional availability, which used to sit at the center of the dynamic, is simply not there the way it was. That changes everything. Without your reactions, they lose a major mirror they used to define themselves. Attempts to provoke, impress, guilt, or shake you either don't reach you or don't land the way they used to. With time, this lack of response pushes them to move their energy elsewhere, not because they have finally healed, but because there is nothing left to take from you. This is usually when they start to fade into the background of your life. They become less relevant, less present in your thoughts, and less emotionally charged. For you, this stage can feel strange at first. Your nervous system, used to tension and constant scanning for the next blow-up, may not know what to do with the quiet. Old feelings can finally surface. Grief, anger, sadness, or confusion. It might feel late, but it's not. It is your body and mind finally having the space to process what was too overwhelming to fully feel when you were still in it. Clarity grows here. You begin to see the weight you carried, how often you second-guessed yourself, and how regularly your own needs were pushed aside. This understanding doesn't need drama. It arrives slowly, through contrast. As you experience healthier interactions, ones that feel steadier, kinder, more mutual, the absence of chaos becomes proof, not emptiness. This is also where trust in yourself starts to rebuild. You stop rehearsing speeches in your head. You stop needing to justify your bound. Aries. The old story loosens its hold. Even if they cross your mind from time to time, the emotional intensity is lower. There is more distance, more perspective. What once felt consuming now feels contained. Not because what happened disappeared, but because it no longer runs the show. Your present and your future are no longer organized around their behavior. They are organized around you.